Welcome back to our series for Release Control 6.1. So far, we have done the installation and gotten the basics set up. And in this video, we are going to set up the integration with Release Control and Deployment Automation. The integrations is really where Release Control gets all of its power. We are going to be following along with the plugin quick reference guide. If you want to get a copy of it, you just need to go out to help.serena.com, go over to the release control section, and then the plugin area has all of our reference guides. And we are going to be looking at the deployment automation guide. So the very first thing that you have to do is open up the provider administrator. And the easiest way to get there is to open the SPM configurator, go to the release control tab, and then click the link in the middle of the screen. This will bring us to the release control provider screen, and we can see all the plugins that are installed out of the box. We have one for Dimension CM, SPM, and SDA. We are going to be doing the SDA one today. In the SDA plugin area, we actually have two different copies. The first one here will connect you using component versions, and the second one is using snapshots. So depending on how your team works and your processes internally, you could be using both of these or one or the other. So just to kind of put that in perspective, if I jump over here to my SDA environment for a moment, and I'm in my application called Hello World, and let's say that we wanted to run this and deploy it out. If I were to go out and say run, let's just say to my dev environment, and there's my process. When we come to the last screen, does your team choose to use snapshots where you choose a snapshot, or do you come in and choose versions? So that is how you will choose which one you want to use in the integration. If you sometimes use one, sometimes use the other, then set up both pieces of the integration. Otherwise, just set up the piece that you normally use. So in our list, the component version section is first, so that's one we'll do first. And all you have to do is come and edit it. The top section is where we have to do most of our edits. We need to put in our SDA server name. In my case, I have it actually installed on the same box. So I'm just going to put in my server name. And I actually had to put it on a different port. So I'm going to change the port number 2. And then the next piece we have to change is pointing to our release control. So this is going to point to your SPM server where release control is installed. For me, it's the same box, so I'm just going to put the same name. Okay, and next we have this logon information. If you have single sign-on set up between SPM and SDA, you can use this at true. I do not have that set up right now, so I'm going to change this to false. And then I'm going to put in a login up here. This is basically going to be treated as a system account. So every time the integration contacts deployment automation, it's going to use this account as the login. And you can come down and look and see the rest of this information. We do not have to change it out of the box. It will work just fine. But just to kind of look at it, we can see the first area is the execute area, and that lets you choose which processes are going to be executed. And then the deployment unit area lets you choose which projects are going to be allowed to be deployed. So that's these two sections, and we'll look at that in more in a moment inside of release control. Okay, and that's all we have to change in here, so we'll just cancel out. Oh, one last thing. If you want to know what each of these fields do exactly, you can come back over here to the reference guide, and jump down to page 9, and it has each one of the fields explained in detail. So you can look through that if you're looking for something specific. All right, so we're going to save that update. And we're also going to update the snapshot copy, so we can look at that as well. And basically we do the same thing here. We're going to change our server name. The first one is to point to the SDA server. And your port number, for me, I had to change the port number, so I'm going to update that as well. And then next we do the release control server where SBM is installed. So update that one too. And then again, we have the single sign-on portion. It's not set up for me, so I will type in here false and put in my login credentials. And this is similar. We have the execution portion where you choose the processes. You'll have a chance to choose, actually, you'll choose the snapshots in this case of which snapshots the users will be able to run. And then the units is which project or product they will be able to deploy. And so those are the two sections. All right, so we'll save that. Okay, and that's it. The configuration is done. It's very easy. We can now go into SBM and see what that does for us and what it looks like. So we'll jump over here to release control. And I have a release package set up that we can use for testing. Okay, so in my release package, we can go to the deployment unit section, and that's where we define what will be deployed. So let's edit that, and we can see how that works with SDA. When we click on our plus, we will see that we can add SDA in either method. So we again can use snapshots, or we can use the component integration plugin. Let's look at both of them. So we'll look at the component version copy first. And here we can choose our application, Hello World, and then the component that we want to choose. Which component exactly is it that we want to be able to deploy? So in this case, I'll just pick source, and we'll say find, and we can see that we have 3 different versions from that component that we can choose from. Let's say we want to deploy the latest one, and we can add that deployment unit. Okay, so there it is. And if we wanted to add another one, of course, it's the same thing. You just come into component version, and we'll pick our application. And let's say we want to deploy the other component as well. So that one only has 2 versions. That's okay. We'll pick the newest one and add it. So that's here. So now you can see both of them. Just as an example, let's also look at the snapshot copy. So when you're doing the snapshot plugin, you choose your application, and then you choose which snapshot you're going to do. Let's do the latest one, and we'll say add. So in reality, you probably wouldn't do both, right? Because in my example, these are the same thing. My snapshot number 4 already contains the web version 2 and the source version 3. So I wouldn't do both of those, but I just wanted you to see what the screens look like. All right, and then we can close it. Now when we come back to the deployment unit screen, we see all 4 of our deployment units that are attached. We can see that this one's a snapshot and these ones are done by component version. All right, so the next piece we'll look at is the deployment task. So these are the pieces about what and how are going to be deployed. So we've got our tasks. Let's edit our list. And we'll click plus, and we have the 2 SDA options. So let's look at the component version option first. Okay, let's see, what are our actions? Oh, we're going to run a process. Okay, so let's say we're going to run the web process. So we're going to say we're going to run a process. It is from our Hello World application, and the process that we're going to run from Hello World is right there. And then we're going to come down and we're going to pick our environment. So this lets us map the SDA environment to the release control environment. So right now we have a direct one-to-one mapping, so we'll just pick these in here. Okay, and actually I don't like this. We'll say run hello world deploy using our version. Okay, that way we can tell them apart in a minute. All right, so we'll save that. All right, and we have that in our list. And let's also do the snapshot version so you can see that. Okay, we'll say run deploy using snapshot. All right, so our action is going to be to run a process from our Hello World application. And the process that we're going to run is the deploy process. And again, we have to map our environments. So you can see these look very similar between the snapshot and the version plugins. Okay, so now we have both of them listed here. Now, one thing that is important to also do is to click on this little link icon, and that lets us map which deployment unit goes to this task. So if we click on this, we can choose that we want to run both of these. So these are the deployment units that we ran earlier. So we have both of them selected so that they will both go. And we'll save that. Now on the other hand, when we're talking about our snapshot task and we click our link, we want that one to deploy our snapshot. So we've mapped what is going to be deployed and how it's going to be deployed. So we save that. Okay, and then we close that up. So back on our release package, we can see all of the deployment tasks that we're going to run, and we can see what they're going to do. This is a snapshot task, component version task, dimensions task, and then that is an SBM task. All right, so that's it. And I hope that helps you to go ahead and configure yours and get started using the integration. Thank you.